Hello guys, and welcome to the next part of the alternate picking course. This is the next module. This is where we're going to be looking at the right hand picking technique now. We're going to start off quite simply with literally looking at only what the right hand is doing. It's important that we focus, just like we did on the left hand, we're breaking it down now to just look at the right hand to make sure that there's no bad habits creeping in already, because if you're a guitarist who's played for a while, you're going to need to iron out a couple of bad habits that might have developed. So we're just going to make sure that the right hand is looking alright before we then introduce the right and the left hand and we start developing our alternate picking. And there's a couple of things that I want you to look out for, because we're going to be doing 5 exercises that are going to work on slightly different elements of the right hand. And what I would like you to do is to focus on the following things when you're working through these exercises to make sure that they're not happening to you. First thing to watch out for when you are doing alternate picking, on a single string you probably won't find that this will happen, but when you're crossing strings it might start to creep into your playing. If we look at the right hand, the angle of the pick is pretty important when you're doing alternate picking. You want to make sure that the angle of the pick, up or down, is not facing too far up and not facing, well, in any way down or up. You want to make sure that it's in line with the string. The reason for this is if you have a natural picking tendency where your pick is facing towards the ceiling, you're going to favour, when you cross strings, a downstroke or an upstroke over the other. So one will be more difficult than the other for you because your pick has to travel further when you're doing an upstroke than it does when you're doing a downstroke. And the opposite is true, is if you have a natural pick facing downwards towards the floor, you're going to find that upstrokes are easier for you rather than downstrokes. So just try and make sure that when you follow these exercises that the pick is in line with the strings as much as possible. The other thing you want to watch out for is the tension in the right hand. When you're doing these exercises, you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on this right hand to pick quite fast. There's going to be a lot of movement, but it needs to be a relaxed movement throughout the whole arm. I don't want to see you tensed up like this and shaking your arm, because you're going to do your elbow and your muscles are not a lot of good. So you want to make sure that you're focused on being relaxed when you're playing these exercises. As you increase speed, you'll feel tension start to build. That's okay to a point, but just think about relaxing it, and you'll notice that as you're playing an exercise, you do become more relaxed as you do it, and that's what you want to aim for each exercise. So watch out for tension building in the right hand. Okay, so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the right hand movement. Where does it come from? The thumb and fingers like this, which you might see guitarists like Yngwie Malmsteen doing similar things, the wrist like this, or the forearm like this. Now for me, it's a wrist movement with a small amount of forearm movement, but not, most of the speed doesn't come from this. This is just as support. It mainly comes from the wrist. That's where you get the most relaxed feeling. I wouldn't recommend going for the thumb and fingers. I don't think it adds much speed to your playing, and I don't see many guitarists using it very often. The forearm approach, well, that's okay for very short bursts of speed, and if you can hold that for a long period of time, then that's great. But for most people, when they go for a forearm based movement, you're going to be getting too much tension and you end up with injuries to your forearm. So I would stick away from that and try for a combination of the wrist movement, like a small shake, and the forearm, just to give it a little bit more speed, a little bit more support if you need it. Always keep them relaxed. And finally, the most important thing with picking exercises is making sure that you have efficiency of movement the whole way through. It's the reason why sweep picking is so fast, is because it's the most efficient way to go across strings. Alternate picking you can't get quite as fast, but it's very important that you're not wasting a lot of movement. Speed equals distance over time, and if you're crossing strings or picking with a really wide picking angle, you're going to be wasting time because the pick's going to be having to travel further over time, so you won't be able to get speed. You can get away with it in these exercises up to about 120. Once you start pushing 140 BPM, any inefficiency in movement you will begin to see and you'll begin to feel. So you want to make sure that through all these exercises you only use the amount of picking action that you need to in order to pick the string. You don't need to move huge alternate picks to get the sound. Just try and keep it nice and efficient.